Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to the course Principle in Animal Life 2. This is lecture number 41. The topic is applying the Hardy-Weinberg equation. Discussing agenda for the topic is conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, applying the Hardy-Weinberg equation. Lecture outcome. After watching and listening this lecture, students will know about conditions and applications of Hardy-Weinberg theorem. Introduction. Conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. The Hardy-Weinberg approach describes a population that is not evolving. Those were two scientists who worked independently, and then they arrived at a similar conclusion. What they wanted to know was whether a population living in a natural environment, in a wild environment, will evolve or not evolve. In our previous lectures, we defined evolution as change in the genetic composition of a population over time, or the change in allelic and genotype frequencies of a population over time or through successive generations. So this concept says that no change will occur in the genotype and allelic frequency or the genetic composition of a population through successive generations if certain conditions are fulfilled. If this population fulfills certain prerequisite conditions, then its allelic and genotype frequency will not change. What are these prerequisite conditions? So this law holds true. This law only will apply to a population who meets those 5 conditions, which we will discuss on the next slide. But in nature, the allele and genotype frequencies of a population often do change over time. Natural population living in the wild environment is subject to change with the passage of time. Certain factors in the environment influence changes in genotype and allelic frequencies of a natural population. Such changes can occur when at least one of the conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is not met. Although departure from the conditions in table 1 is common, resulting in evolutionary change, it is also common for a natural population to be in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium for specific genes. An individual has several traits, and these traits are controlled by genes. They are controlled by alleles. So it is possible that certain alleles, for certain traits, the allelic and the genotype frequency will change with the passage of time, and for other traits it will not change. One way this can happen is if selection alters allele frequencies at some loci but not others. Now, a population is living in a particular natural environment, and suppose a change occurred in the environment. Now the organism must adapt to that change. It must bring changes, modifications in its phenotype. So the Darwin finches, which migrated from the South American mainland to the Galapagos Islands, and that single ancestral species diverged and found various habitats with different types of uh, food material, so their beak shape modified accordingly. Now the predominant structure in which that change occurred was beak. So you can take that as an example that at times certain traits or certain alleles are under the effect of various agents responsible for evolution, and if these traits are favorable, then they are propagated in the population by natural selection. So the summary is that at times some of the alleles for specific traits do change, not all. In addition, some populations evolve so slowly that the changes in their allele and genotype frequencies are difficult to distinguish from those predicted for a non-evolving population. The process of evolution is a very slow and steady process. It is a gradual process which takes place over a long period of time, and at times the rate of evolution in a particular allele and genotype is so slow that we cannot differentiate it from a non-evolving population. A population is undergoing evolution, undergoing change in their genetic composition, but this change is so slow that it cannot be differentiated from that of the population which is not evolving. So now we will study the prerequisite conditions which must be obeyed by a population, and only then their allelic and genotype frequency or their genetic composition will not change through successive generations, or simply this population will not evolve. So the prerequisite conditions are no mutation. Mutation is the change in the genetic material of a cell or an organism. Mutations can be large scale mutations like chromosomal mutations, where change occur in the number and structure of chromosomes, or it can be gene mutations where changes occurs in the individual genes. Now majority of the mutations are harmful. They decreases the fitness of an organism, but we also know that mutations provide raw material for evolution, means they bring about changes in the genes, and the mutated genes are then exposed to natural selection, and at times their product is useful in some way or the other, and natural selection keeps such mutations in the population, and they are responsible for evolution. But we are discussing the conditions of for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, means the population will remain in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, that is, its genotype and allelic frequency will not change if there is no mutation. So no mutation is one of the conditions. Random mating. Random mating is a process in which in a population a particular individual has equal opportunity of mating with any other individual in the population that is of opposite sex. Suppose we have a population of 100 beetles, 80 of them are having black color, 6 of them are having white color, and 14 of them are having brown color. So we have a population of beetles where 100 individuals are present, 80 of them are having black color, 6 of them are having white, and the rest of the 14 are having brown. Now random mating is a process in which a beetle of white coat color will have equal opportunity to mate with the beetles having brown color, or the beetles having black color, or the beetles having white color themselves. If the selection of the mates is on the basis of similarity in phenotype, then it will be non-random mating. So if random mating occurs in a population, all individuals have equal opportunity of mating with other individuals of the opposite sex, then the allelic and genotype frequencies will not change. Now suppose these black beetles are already large in number, and if they choose their mates on the basis of similarity in phenotype, that is, they only mate with black beetles, then they will outnumber those white beetles, and their frequency will further increase. But if this mating process is random, it is haphazard, then this particular frequency will remain the same through successive generations. Although the number of individuals may change, but the frequencies will remain the same. The third is natural selection. Now, natural selection is the mechanism for evolution which was presented by Charles Darwin in his book published in 1859. In that book, he said that individuals with certain inherited traits are more adapted to the environment as compared to others, and those inherited beneficial traits enables those organisms to live successfully and attain a high reproductive potential, and in this way natural selection will propagate those favorable traits in the population, and individuals which lack those traits will be eliminated from the population. They will have lesser chances of survival and reproduction, and as a result they will be eliminated or they will become extinct. So one of the conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is also that there should be no natural selection, means the allele frequencies change when individuals with different genotypes show consistent differences in their survival or reproductive success. So all the individuals in the population, irrespective of their genotype, should have equal opportunities of survival and reproduction, means there shouldn't be any traits which are favored by nature in a population. All the individuals having all types of traits in a population should be dealt with equally by natural selection, or in other words, there should be no natural selection in that population. Extremely large population size. Now we go back to that example. We have a population of 100 beetles, 80 of them are black, 6 of them are white, and 14 of them are brown. So it's a small population. Now at times disastrous conditions occurs. There is a shortage of food, there is attacks by the predators or unfavorable environmental conditions or natural calamities like fire, etc., which results in a sudden loss in the size of the population. So what happened? These 6 beetles that have the white color, they can be visible to the predators easily, and the predators can distinguish them in the black background. So suppose the predator captured and consumed those 6 beetles, then what will happen? This allele responsible for white coat color will be eliminated from the population. That is, because it is a small population, only 6 individuals are having this particular genotype and phenotype. So if those 6 individuals dies away, then this allele will be lost from that population, and the disruption or the change in the allelic frequency will take place. Now suppose this population is of 100,000. Suppose this population is of 100,000, 80,000 are black, 6,000 are white, and 14,000 are brown. Now here the population size is larger. So here the death of few individuals, the death of 5, 10, 15 or 20 or 100 individuals, they will not bring change in the allelic and genotype frequency of the population. So the change in the allelic frequencies by sudden chance events is called genetic drift. For example, allelic frequency that is changed as a result of diseases, shortage of food, unfavorable environmental conditions, or natural calamities, and they results in the death of those individuals which are carrying a unique allele. So in this way that allele will be lost from the population. But if the size of the population is larger, then the death of few individuals will not disturb the allelic and genotype frequency. Let me give you another example of a human population. Suppose 100 humans are living in a particular area and they make up a population. 80 of them are having black eye color, 6 or 2 of them are having, you can consider 6 of them are having green eye color, and the remaining ones are having blue eye color. So if those 6 individuals which are having green eye color, if they unfortunately, suppose they suffered in accident and they lost their lives, then this allele determining the green eye color will be lost from the population and the allelic frequency will be disturbed. But if the population size is large, suppose there are 100,000 individuals, then the death of few individuals will not result in the elimination of a particular allele from the population. Another one is no gene flow, means this population must be isolated from the other populations living in the surrounding areas, and there should be no exchange of genes between the populations. No individuals should migrate outwards, and no individuals from other populations should enter that population. So if a population can maintain those conditions, or those conditions apply to a particular population, a population fulfills those 5 conditions, then such a population will not evolve. The allelic and the genotype frequency of such a population which fulfills those conditions will not change. So evolution will not occur in that population. Now, if you look at those conditions, 5, they are 5 in number, and all of them are the agents for evolutionary change: mutation, non-random mating, natural selection, small population size, and migration, gene flow. These are the 5 mechanisms of evolution. They bring about change in the genotype and allelic frequencies, and if you control them, then they becomes the conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Now you can see that those conditions are really tough for a natural population. A natural population is under the effect of various external forces, and they are vulnerable to changes in their allelic and genotype frequencies. So we cannot say for sure that a natural population exists anywhere in the world which fulfills all those 5 conditions. There must be deviation in 1 or 2 of those conditions. So if the Hardy-Weinberg equation is fulfilled only if those conditions are fulfilled, so the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium will only apply to a population that fulfills those 5 conditions, and there is no such population that lives in the wild environment and that fulfills those 5 conditions. Violation will occur in 1 or 2, so there is no such ideal population. So the Hardy-Weinberg rules or principle or theorem does not apply to a natural population. Then why we are discussing it here either because of the fact that it has historical importance or it do have applications in other areas. So here we will explore what are the applications of this equation. The Hardy-Weinberg equation is often used as an initial test of whether evolution is occurring in a population or not. The equation also has medical applications, such as estimating the percentage of a population carrying the allele for an inherited disease. So the Hardy-Weinberg equation helps us to find out the number of carriers of a particular genetic disorder. Remember, carrier is an individual which is having a defective copy for a certain condition, but because of the presence of a normal copy, the person does not show any symptoms, but it can transfer this mutant or defective copy to the next generations. So these individuals cannot be diagnosed with this condition unless a genetic test is carried out. There is a screening process, but this equation can simply gives us an estimate of the number of carriers in a population without any genetic tests. Here we will discuss a condition, and then we will try to find out the number of individuals that are having a defective copy of that particular conditions, and themselves they are normal. So first we introduce phenylketonuria, which is a metabolic disorder, and this is a recessive disorder, mean both the copies needs to be defective, and only then the person will show the symptoms of this condition. What happens in this condition? The person lacks an enzyme, or the enzyme is defective. The function of this enzyme is to convert phenylalanine into tyrosine. Phenylalanine is an amino acid, and it is converted into tyrosine by a particular enzyme. So individuals suffering from this condition, they don't have that functional enzyme which can convert phenylalanine to tyrosine. So what happens? Phenylalanine builds up in the body, and as a result the individual suffers several symptoms like damage to the brain and severe intellectual disabilities. What is the frequency of this condition in the population of United States? It is 1 out of 10,000 babies born. So one individual out of 10,000 live births will be affected, will be homozygous for this condition. So left untreated, PKU results in mental disability and other problems. Newborns are now routinely tested for PKU. Immediately after birth, they are screened for this particular gene, and if this condition is detected at early stage, then the patient's survival chances can be enhanced by keeping them on a phenylalanine free diet, because their bodies don't have the appropriate enzyme which converts phenylalanine into its metabolites. So if you don't give them phenylalanine in diet, in their food, then its harmful effects will be decreased. It will not build up in the body. But in order to do so, you need to find out, you need to know about this condition at a very early stage. To apply the Hardy-Weinberg equation, we must assume that no new PKU mutations are being introduced into the population. So now we are going to apply the Hardy-Weinberg equation to the allelic and genotype frequencies for this particular condition. But this population will only meets the criteria for this equation if they fulfill those 5 conditions, those 5 prerequisite conditions. Then this equation will apply to that population. So the first condition was no mutation, so no new mutations in PKU genes must arise in that population. The second condition was random mating, so people neither choose their mates on the basis of whether or not they carry this gene, nor generally mate with close relatives. So the mating between individuals should be random, not on the basis of similarities in the physical features or because of close relatedness. Means those affected individuals should mix up equally in the population with others like the normal individuals. The third condition was no natural selection, so all the individuals with PKU genotypes, they must have equal opportunities of survival and reproduction, and there should be no selection. Means the natural selection should not favor specific individuals affected with this condition. The fourth one is the population size should be larger, because only then the genetic drift will have negligible effects. And the fifth one was there should be no migration, no gene flow. So if all these assumptions hold, means if a population fulfills all those assumptions, then the frequency of individuals in the population born with PKU will correspond to Q square. As already mentioned, that PKU is a homozygous. It is a homozygous recessive condition. Mean both the copies needs to be defective, only then the individual will show the symptoms of this condition. And remember from our previous lectures that we used the symbol P for representing one allele and Q for representing the other allele. Usually you can represent a dominant allele with P and a recessive with Q. So here Q square means that this particular individual is homozygous for the recessive allele. Now, as already mentioned, that one individual out of 10,000 births is affected with this condition, so we will calculate the genotype frequency of individuals with this condition. So what was the formula for this particular estimation of that frequency? The formula was number of individuals with a particular genotype divided by number of all the individuals in a population. So here we have one individual that is affected with PKU, and there are 10,000 individuals in the population. Now those 10,000 do have carriers also, and they do have individuals where both the copies are normal. So for the gene pair which when mutated results in PKU, we are only considering the genotype for that specific genes. So 1 out of 10,000, it makes 0.0001. Now remember that it is the genotype frequency. So now we have Q square is equal to this value, and we will apply and under root on both sides of the equation. So under root on this side will cancel with the square, and under root on this side will result in 0.01. So this is the allelic frequency, the frequency of the PKU allele. This was the frequency of the PKU genotype, and we already know that P plus Q is equal to 1. So if we know the values of one of them, then the value of the other can be estimated automatically. So you put P here and then shift Q to this side, it will become negative. So 1 minus Q is equal to 1 minus 0.01, it will be P is equal to 0.99. Here you go. So that's the value of P. Now we have the frequency of the recessive allele, we have the frequency of the dominant allele, and remember at the start what we were trying to find out. We wanted to find out the number of individuals that are carriers for this condition. So how we will find it? 2PQ. So here you have you have 2pq. Why we are writing 2pq here? Because the person will sometimes receive a defective copy from the father, sometimes a defective copy from the mother. Remember so here they have simplified the equation, and the allelic frequency or the number of individuals that are carriers for this condition are 2%. So 2% of the population in the United States is carrier for PKU. So I hope all of you have understood how this equation is used, how it is applied, and if those values are modified, they are changed slightly, then you will be in a position to simplify and sum up the equation and find out the number of carriers. So with that we come to the end of this lecture. Thank you very much.